Hey, it's Frank here with 4D Honeybee, and I'm going to do something different today. I'm going to do a microwave installation. This is an over-the-range microwave from KitchenAid that's going to fit right here in this hole. And the reason why I'm doing this video is because I searched on YouTube for this type of install, and there weren't many videos. As a matter of fact, I can only find one, and it was a little old. But I decided to go ahead and do it just to see if anyone else can get some ideas on how to do it. And first thing that you find when you buy this microwave is that it says that if you have a stud within 6 inches of the center line of the space where it's supposed to go, you can't install it, which is a little misleading. I mean, you basically have to move the stud. So you see this stud here, sure enough, the center line's right about here, so it's pretty much right at the center line. So you've got to remove that stud. So that's what I did. That's the first thing I did here, was I cut the drywall open. Cut a nice big opening so you can work with it, and I removed this stud. Now the way this stud was removed was that I cut it up here an inch and a half above the space here where the drywall is cut with an oscillating tool. So you just bring the oscillating tool in there, cut it an inch and a half above, because you want to put in a header to transfer the weight from the stud that was here over to these shoulder studs that you put in, back down to this transfer, I guess, base plate type of thing that's going to transfer the weight back down to the stud. So this eliminates the stud from the place where you've got to now cut your opening in order to put your vent space through the wall. So I'm going to go through the wall for the vent space. I also had electrical run here, and what I had to do for that is I had to drill a hole and run the electrical through that top stud there, and bring it up into the cabinet there. That's the best place usually for you to plug it. That's generally where they want you to plug the microwave. You drill a little hole down there, and that's how you feed the cable to plug in the microwave. So I guess the stuff that I've got to do now is I've got to cut the vent hole for the microwave right in here, but I'm going to also frame out that hole so that I can screw my drywall back to it. I have to cut out the vent hole, I have to cut the hole, frame it, and then insulate and vapor barrier this. And this is amazing. You can see why you need vapor barrier, right? It's a freezing cold day out here, and this vapor barrier, this insulation, has actually stuck to the wall because it's frozen. So there's not that much humidity in this room, but there is humidity. It's gone through the insulation, hit the cold wall, frozen the drywall. And that's why you put this vapor barrier on. And I'm surprised the instructions don't say anything about vapor barrier or about insulation. I guess for that matter, you're just supposed to know that. But anyway, we'll get going with that. Then we will put a bracket up here which supports the microwave. That supports the back of it. We will drill holes for bolts underneath here to hold the microwave up. And then on the microwave itself, we got to take this blower at the back. The fan right now has to be set up to blow air out the back, right out through these grills. And I think you actually are supposed to remove these grills as well. So what we've got to do is access this, pull out the blower, reverse it so that it's blowing out the back here, and then that's sort of the last stage that you do before you go for the install. So thanks for joining me. We'll see how she goes. Okay, so the first thing you've got to do is frame out the space, the opening for the vent. So best way to do that is to find your center line. So I measured the center line and I marked it on the walls here and here, and I also marked it up on the cabinet here, because I wanted to make sure that the center line of the cabinet was the center line of the space of the opening as well. And they do all jive, as you can see with the laser. They all jive quite nicely. So I'll transpose that over to here now and just mark the center line here to be able to reference for the box. And we'll start everything off of here, and that way we know that everything is all centered. Okay, now the pre-prescribed box size that they want is 12 inches wide by 4 inches long. So I'm just going to cut 2 vertical pieces that are 4 inches and then 1 horizontal piece that goes all the way across. Screw it in, and actually before I do that, I'm going to mark off the opening for the actual wall plate that goes outside. because you want to cut that before you have the frame up, because if not, it makes it harder to get at. So I'll mark that up first, and then we'll do the framing. Okay, so here's the wall cap that I bought. I think it was like 19 bucks at Home Depot. It does not come with the microwave, and it kind of makes sense because you could be going anywhere with this vent. You could be going up through the roof. You could be going up through the cupboards. You could be going through the sides, or you don't even have to vent this outside. You could just vent air inside, which kind of defeats the purpose, I thought. So anyway, I bought this piece. This goes on the outside wall, so outside of the house, and it, you know, attaches to the outside of the house like this. So you basically cut this dimension into that wall there. So this is 3 1/4 by 10, and it suggests that you cut an extra 1/4 all the way around. I'm going to cut a little more height-wise, and the reason why I'm going to cut a little more height-wise is that on the outside, this thing rests on shingles, which are siding, which are not perfectly straight vertical up and down. So the shingles are at an angle. So if this sits on a shingle that's at an angle, then this box is going to need a bit of an angle to be able to come in. And so I don't want to make the clearances too tight. I don't think it's a big deal, because what I'm going to do before I install this is put a decent bead of silicone all the way around it. And that will be the final seal outside. Now, the one thing is that I don't know where this is going to end up once I cut the hole up there. I don't know where it's going to end up on the outside wall. It would be ideal if this ended up perfectly right on one entire piece of siding, but it rarely works out that way. If the siding ends, you know, halfway through where you've cut the hole, you'd have this sitting at an angle with a big space at the bottom, right? So in that case, you got to trim down the siding outside, and it becomes a bit more of a job. I won't be doing that till tomorrow, because it's evening here and it's pretty cold out. It's probably this is not too bad. It's been colder, but it's about, you know, 4 degrees below zero, which is probably around 26, 27 Fahrenheit. So I am gonna draw out the opening here based on my center line, and I'll probably go ahead and cut that, put a piece of insulation in there, and then frame it out. Okay, so I've cut the 2 pilot holes, and I'm going to make this cut and most of these vertical cuts with the jigsaw, but I'm not going to make that cut from the inside because the top plate is sitting right there. I can't get an angle, or if I do try to cut it from here, I'm going to be at an angle which will make the hole too big on the outside. So I'll cut these 3 lines here with a jigsaw. That should make it nice and straight and square, and then I'll cut that upper cut from the outside, probably with a skill saw. And that's one difficult thing about doing this job, is that you do need to have a lot of tools, and you have to have the right tools, but you also have to be able to use them properly. This cut outside is going to be, you know, on a ladder that's going to be at least 9 feet off the ground, and it's pretty cold out, so it's going to be a bit of a tricky cut. But anyway, we'll go nice and easy. Make this cuts first and see how it goes. Up to a nail there, so I'm just going to stop and see if I can remove that nail, because I don't want to kill this blade. We probably will find other nails, but now that I've seen that one, I will get that out so that I don't kill this blade going. I may be able to work around it too, so maybe I'll cut in from the other side, because I won't be able to pull it out from here. And it's a nail that's that's going to be on the inside of the siding, so I can't take it out from the other side either. So let's see, maybe I will just try and lift it up, lift the tip of it up, and see if I can get some pliers on it, maybe pull it through here. Let's see. Okay, so hopefully you'll be able to see this. My body will probably be in the way, but I lifted up the nail, and now I'm just trying to pull it through on this side so that it gets out of the way, and sure enough it worked out right. See that? So now it's out of our way and we can continue with the jigsaw. I probably will hit another nail, but at least I won't be hitting that one. Cut started off really crookedly, and it's just because I don't have enough light here to see properly. So again, that's something that I'm going to change right now. As soon as I finish this cut, I'm going to get a better spotlight out here to be able to see. So that's going to work. Again, I won't make that top cut today. I'll leave that for tomorrow, but I will now do the framing of the box that is desired for the microwave vent opening. Okay, so you can see where I've marked off where my 4-inch pieces are going to go, there and there. I've pre-drilled them, and I will screw those in first, and then I'll put the piece across the bottom of them. So you can see how I've just pre-drilled them here and here, just to make it a little easier to screw them in. And now let's see if we can just finish this bit of framing here, and then we start to look at the drywall piece that's going to cover the whole thing. Mark these so that 12 inches is on the inside. I want to make sure that the space is nice and square. So I did square it off. This isn't sitting nicely at the back here. I'm not quite sure why. So, oh yeah, okay, I see. Well, it's just that the header is twisted up at that point. So that's not an issue because this is nice and flat and square. And again, this is still a rough-in opening, right? Like nobody's going to see it, and the only real function that it provides is to make a space for the vent air to come out. So, and this hole is a lot bigger than what's needed, because it's the smaller hole on the inside that's the one that has to be a little more precise. Now, the manual for the microwave doesn't actually tell. I'm just going to turn down the radio a bit. The manual for the microwave doesn't actually tell you to frame this out. I'm not sure why they don't, because if you don't frame this out and you just cut a hole in the drywall, then air is going to be blowing all inside this wall. Some of it's going to get out as well, but by building this frame here, the air that comes out of the back of the microwave is going to have no choice but to go out through this channel that I've built it. I'll seal it off everywhere else and make something of an air barrier. I'll probably block any way with it. And then the air has to go out there. So that's why I'm doing this. And I'll show you some more steps that I'm going to take near the end to make sure, just to reduce the amount of cold air that comes through here. Because if you could feel it right now, you feel a lot of cold air. A lot of cold air coming in through this space. And you know, all you're going to have blocking the outside air from you is this two of these thin little rinky-dink pieces of aluminum, right? It's minus 35 degrees Celsius out here, -510 Fahrenheit, any given time. So you don't want that. So I'm going to try and do a little better than what the book recommended as far as that. So you can see that's how the frame's going to go. I cut out a little notch here for this cable to go through. I'm not going to be putting any screws through here, so that's perfectly fine as it is. If you were putting screws, you might want to move it in a little deeper, but as it is, that's pretty good. Don't go anywhere. Put a couple more screws in here, and then we're on our next step. So now, what I'm going to do is we'll need to insulate and vapor barrier everything else, and we'll even vapor barrier the area inside here because that's where grease is going to be all flying out there. So I'd rather have the grease stick into the plastic vapor barrier and not the wooden studs. So that's it. You get the picture. A couple more screws, and then the next step will probably be closing up this space by putting the insulation back in, putting the vapor barrier up, cutting the piece of drywall, putting it up, and then we're ready to put the bracket in. Then we could put the bracket in maybe today, maybe tomorrow, depending on how the whole drywalling goes. Okay. Okay, so we're just going to dry fit the piece of drywall that I cut, and I kind of left it pretty conservative as far as spaces. See, there's a pretty good size space here and here, and you can't see it on this side, but there's some pretty good space here. The most important thing about this piece of drywall is that I want it to have a little bit of the opening here revealed, especially on the bottom side. I want the bottom edge revealed quite a bit because you hook the microwave on the bracket, which sits down about here, and then you basically swing the microwave up like this in a position. So you can imagine that where it's going to touch first off is in the bottom, so I want as much clearance there, and there's plenty. It's going to be fine. Then what I'm going to do is once I put some tape and mud on this, screw it all in, what I will do before I put the microwave up is I'm going to just put a little weather stripping right around here in the hopes that the weather stripping will make a seal with the back of the microwave, and that will prevent air from the outside coming in, and it will vent all the air out through there. There'll be no other place for the air to go. Again, that's not in the manual, but I decided I'd do that just to make it a bit of a better fit. So we'll screw this in, mud it up, and that's probably it for today. Okay, so you see I screwed in my piece of drywall. I've also taped it up. And now I'm just going to do a light coat of mud over top. And again, I'm not very good at this, so take it for what it is, but it really is just a matter of making a seal. And you don't have to be too pretty with it, but one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to leave too much mud on it, because then that will affect the positioning of the microwave, or it could. As luck would have it, as you can see down here, that is where my bracket has to end up, and it happens to fall right on that space there, which is not good. If I had to do this all over again, I probably would have known where that bracket was supposed to go and not made that stud right there, that horizontal piece right there. I probably would have brought it up a bit so that it would be out of the way, because as it is there, you can see now I got to let the mud dry, then I'm going to put it on, and it might not seat it properly. Not that it really matters, because all you need it is to be secure with lag bolts in studs and screws and drywall and such, and you need it to be level, most importantly, so that your microwave ends up level. So there is a bit of room for play in the bracket itself. So I'm just going to mud this up. You can watch it and you can laugh at it, and then that's it. I'm going to let it sit for the night and put on the bracket and finish cutting the hole on the outside in the morning, and then hopefully I'll be installing a microwave. When I mud and tape, I make a mess. There's no two ways about it. I have found that over the years I've gotten better at it just because I've gotten more patient. And it is a job that requires a lot of patience because you just can't rush it. If you're doing it for finishing purposes, you got to plan to do at least 3 or 4 coats. And again, there's no taking shortcuts on that. For this job here, again, it's nothing fancy. You're just basically filling in an airspace or preventing an airspace and sealing up this drywall so that you can, none of this is going to ever be seen, right? It's going to be well behind the microwave. But you still don't want to, you don't want to make a mess, and you don't want to leave it clumpy, and you don't want to leave too much kicking around. So you do want to make it smooth and as good as you can, I guess. I'm far from a professional at doing this. I have done it for quite a while, or a number of times, but this is one of those gigs that the more you do it, the better you get. And the more you do it, the faster you get at it, too. But as you can see, I mean, I don't think I've been at it 5 minutes yet. I'm just a couple of little portions here from being done, or just one, actually, so it's not that big a job. So that is about it. Everything is covered, everything is sealed up. Just a couple little gaps here that I will fill. And I won't get too fancy with it, because another thing that I notice about mudding is the more you mess around with it trying to be perfect, the worse you make it. So we will leave well enough alone very soon here. Of course, as I say that, I keep doing more stuff. Alright, that's about it. I'm not going to touch it anymore. That's more than good enough for the purposes of this microwave install. And I'm happy with it. So that's it for today. Tomorrow, bracket. You can see where I've marked it off there. Bracket install here. Then hole and faceplate on the outside. And she's getting to be done. Thanks for joining me. Okay, so we're back at the microwave the day after, and I'm pretty happy with how the mudding and taping turned out. It's almost 100% dry, just a little bit of a wet spot there in there, but that's not a big deal. That'll dry off as we go working. So now I'm going to, first thing I'm going to do is to place the bracket up here. I'll probably remark it, remeasure it, and then I'll set the bracket up here. And what they're looking for is they're looking for at least one lag bolt in a stud. Okay, that's sort of their minimum. And you can see I've marked where one stud is there. And I've got another stud over here that I can probably grab. I'll mark those off, and then I'll drill a pilot hole for their, what they're calling their lag bolt. It's not much of a lag bolt, but anyway. It's actually only going to get into the stud about an inch, but the microwave really doesn't weigh so much. It's the microwave plus what the food is inside it that you have to hold up. But I'll get one in the stud for sure here. I'll probably get one in a stud over here, and then just put a third screw. They have this bolt that's specially designed just to go through drywall into there, and that will be more than enough. If I feel like it, I'll probably put another one in somewhere, but they all have to be pre-marked and pre-drilled. So I'll get on to doing that now. I'll install the bracket. Then I'll put the template up and do my 2 holes up here for the bolts that hold the top of the microwave. And then I might just go ahead and try to install it. And actually the bracket there is upside down. It's supposed to be like this. Alright, so we'll get that done and then maybe install this thing. Okay, so I've gone ahead and pre-drilled my spots for the bracket. Now, as usually happens, a simple job never ends up being that simple. So I lined it up with the level line, marked my stud here, marked my second stud here, and marked the third place, which will just be one of these toggle bolts that goes into the drywall. And when I pre-drilled this one, no problem. When I went to pre-drill that one, of course it was sitting on a drywall screw. So Instead of removing the drywall screw, I left the screw in, and I just made another hole in the bracket, which probably the manufacturer would never recommend, but in practicality it'll perform the same job as that hole. And again, remembering that the whole thing just asks for one lag bolt in the stud, so we should be more than safe here. I'll just start installing it now, and hopefully this bolt is the only one I'm a little worried about, because of course you can't put the little butterfly piece here. You can't put that through the bracket, right? So you've got to kind of cut a hole for it in the drywall, insert it, and then hope it lines up, and hope that you can thread your bolt into it without pushing it out, so pushing it through. So that's the first thing I'm going to do here, just to kind of hold up the bracket. Hopefully it will work okay. Let's see. If it feels like it's got it and it's threading through, which it is, then at any point I can just push it right on through the drywall and keep tightening it up. So it has caught it, which is good. I'll just get the other lag bolts going and secure this bracket. Okay, so I've gone ahead and taped the template for the holes in the upper cabinet where the bolts have to go to support this thing. And I hate doing this. I hate using templates because they're always a little tricky to deal with. They're not the right size. You know, that template is bigger than the opening. So I thought the most important thing was to make sure it's absolutely perfectly flush with the back wall. And then secondly was to make sure it's really flush or really lined up with the center line. You can't see the center line because it's covered by the template, but I marked the center line at the front and on the back wall there. So that is lined up, and that's a pretty important thing. Now I'm going to just mark the holes. There's one there marked D, and there's one over here marked E. I'm just going to mark them with the screw so that I get a good mark, and then I'll do my 3/8 inch hole is what they're asking for. Okay, so I've gone ahead and drilled the 2 holes for the bolts that support the top of the microwave. They're 3/8 inch holes, which gives you a little bit of play in that bolt, which is pretty critical because when you go to bring that microwave up, it's not going to line up perfectly. So I'm hoping that 3/8 inch will be enough to be able to grab and pull up the microwave. The other thing that I've done, which again is not called for in the manual, is I put a seal around the opening. And I'm hoping that I can just get a bit of compression on that seal when the microwave goes up and the bolts basically lift it the last few inches or centimeters there. Because if not, you've got a big airspace there, and there's a gap for air to be able to come out behind the microwave, and I definitely don't want that. The ideal thing would be to have this completely sealed from the back of the microwave here, which still needs to have this vent plate put on it. From the back of the microwave, sealed all against around the wall, so the only place the air can go out is out the back through the wall cap. So I'm going to just carry on right now and remove and rearrange the blower so that it blows out the back. We'll probably do a quick test on that, and then I will attempt to get the whole thing up on the wall. So you can see the blower screws are in here, and I can see them. Let's see if I can feel my way to these screws. Yep. So it's just 4 screws. You loosen up the blower here. Helps to have a magnetic screwdriver, by the way. The snap-on screwdrivers are great for that kind of thing. A little expensive, but worth the money. You take off these 2 screws, and you also remove the plate above here. So the plate above is 2 more Phillips screws. And you take those out, and now the blower, I think it should be fairly self-evident how it's supposed to go, but again, I've never done this before, so I'm just going by the manual and hopefully a little bit of common sense. So this plate you just slide forward like this, And yeah, so the blower should come straight out like that, and it does. You can see it's connected. And you should just need to turn it around like so. And put it back in. So this is the way it's going to want to go. So now the blower is facing out. There's only one way for the air to go. Set it back down. And then these screw holes here, as you can see them, are going to line up with the screw holes that you just pulled out. So, well, looks like what we should do is disconnect the electrical here. Drop it in. Maybe reroute the electrical a little bit. Right now there's something preventing it from seating flush. It's got it. It's seated flush, but it can't be right. It's got to be like this. That's it. That makes sense. Okay. So there you go. That's seating flush now, and the air should blow out of there. Reconnect the electrical. Tuck it in. And put the bolts back on, put the cap back on, a protective plate on top. And then we'll put the 2 screws in the back of the blower as well. And I will plug this in and just give it a test before I install it, just to make sure it's working, to make sure it's functioning properly. And I've lost the screw, of course. Is everyone's floor a black hole of losing screws? Okay, so I've got one screw in, I'll find the other one, put it in, let my dog in, and then we'll test this blower. Okay, so you can see I've screwed in the blower, and I've cut out those 2 grills that were there. They would just restrict airflow coming out. And now the last thing I've got to do before I test this thing is just put on the vent plate on the back that restricts air from coming in when it's not asked for, I guess. I mean, it's flimsy and it's a piece of garbage. And what concerns me about this is just that you know, cold air will constantly be getting into this unit, but I guess there's no way around that. Hopefully it'll be contained within the microwave, but it's not like the microwave is going to have much in the way of insulation either. So I think there's always the downside to venting right? You're moving air out, but you're making your place more susceptible for air to get in as well. I think that's just the nature of venting, right? So I'll put these screws on, and then I do have it plugged in, so I'll just give it a little test run here and see how she goes, but I expect that it'll blow the snot out of this thing. It's a pretty powerful motor, and it's 4 speeds, so let's see how it goes. Yeah, watch out for that. There's high speed. Let's see, it's working very well. Cycle through all 4 speeds. Medium high, medium, low. You can see the damper is still open, so air's going out. And that's it. That's what I wanted to check. I just wanted to know that it's working properly. Alright, last thing now, at least for now, is going to be to try and lift this thing. Now the book recommends 2 people minimum, and I can tell why. Most of the weight of this just sits in the front left side of it. And I'm going to give it a try myself, because one good thing is that when you do hook it on the back, when you know you've got it hooked on the plate there, then it's only the front that you need to worry about. So I'll give it a try and see how it goes, and if it's not going well, I will just leave it until I get some help. I can't have a repeat of when I installed this cabinet. When I installed this cabinet, I dropped it twice, and it didn't damage it, but that wouldn't be the same way with the microwave. If I drop that thing, it's done. So I'll see how it goes, and hopefully that's the last part of the interior installation. Then all I've got to do is get outside and cut that hole on the outside and install the vent cap on the outside and caulk it, and it's done. Okay, so I did get it up there. Still kind of huffing and puffing. It's not too bad for a one-guy job. I mean, if you absolutely can, do 2, because the nice thing is once you hook it on the back bracket, you're just holding the weight of the front, and with my ladder there, I was able to climb up and just push the microwave up until it lined up nicely with the bolts. Now I'm just going to, and I haven't tightened the bolts all the way down yet, because I'm just going to use the last bit of the screw threads that I have left in the bolts just to level it off. So let's see what we got here. I'll take you up and help with the leveling, I guess. Let's see what we got. Okay, I can make a slight adjustment to that, but it's pretty darn good. I'll just adjust the last few screw threads to make it perfectly level, and then I will have a breather, and then I will go outside and cut the hole and install the vent, and then this installation is done. Okay, so I cut the hole outside and dry fit this. It fit really well. Only little complication was that I hit a nail with my jigsaw, so it cost me that wood blade, unfortunately. So I had a look at the microwave from behind to see if that seal that I put up is doing anything, and it's not. There's still a good, 1/4 inch gap. So what I'm going to do is I am going to spray that cavity with foam. Not too much, because I don't want the foam to expand so much that it interferes with the flapper valve there. But I'm going to do that first. I'm going to actually bead this up with silicone now, with my trusty silicone gun there, and let it sit while I go outside, spray the foam in, and then I will bring this up, put 4 screws in, and this job is done. Okay, so it might not be a good recording. I'm going to try and film and silicone at the same time. It's giving a lovely bead, as you can see, I hope. But I really can't do this with one hand. So let me get back to you in a second. So here's the monster bead of silicone I put on this thing. Kind of overkill, but I don't think you can put too much. If it squishes out, it squishes out. I don't really care. Now I'm going to get outside and do a quick spray foam, and then come back and install the vent, and that's it. This job's okay. So that's it. So I screwed the outside cap on. Get the the fan. It sounds good from in here. Now we'll go out and just do one final inspection. And this is done. I know, Tower, I know. My assistant dog, Tower, desperately doesn't want to be left inside. But it's too cold for him out here. So I'll just take you right out here. Well, you can certainly hear it working. Where is it? There. And we'll go up and just make sure the flapper valve is also working. And it is. You can see that silicone squished out really nicely all around the vent. And that's a really good installation. Very happy with that. You can also see the spray foam inside. See that it foams it up a little bit. Just to, again, make sure that all the air actually comes out where it's supposed to, and not just seep into the kitchen. Okay, that's it for this video on installing a over-the-range microwave with a wall vent system. I'd say on the do-it-yourself scheme of things, this is probably a 7 out of 10. So as far as difficulty. If you're not comfortable with framing and with having to relocate a joist or a stud or a header, if you're not comfortable with drywall, there was some electrical here, but electrical has to be inspected by an electrician anyway. I'd say get somebody else to do it. If you are comfortable with that, hope this video helped you, and hope you can do it on your own. Thanks for joining me. It's Frank at 4D Honeybee.